Hi everyone, I'm Karen Van Holten, President of Monarch Title of Texas. One of the best parts about our job is getting to close you at the closing table, so we want to make sure that you're best prepared when you get here. I'm going to be going over today a HUD it's kind of funny because it's actually your closing statement, your settlement statement, but in the industry we call it a HUD1. The name of it is a settlement statement, but the form ID is an HUD-1. So if you ever hear anyone say, hey, where's your HUD? That's what they're referring to. It says settlement statement up at the top. I'm looking at one so that I can walk you through it. I'm not scripted. I'm just telling you as if I were closing you in the closing room. So I'll be looking down a little bit. The HUD is divided into two sections on the front page. The left side is for the buyer and the right side is for the seller. So if you're the seller, you're going to be looking on the right. If you're the buyer, you're going to be looking on the left. The first thing that's listed on both sides is the contract sales price. So whatever was agreed to purchase the property for or to sell the property for, that's going to be the first thing. We're going to start on the buyer's side. So the left-hand side. We have the sales price that we're collecting from the buyer. Then we have the total of the closing costs, which are going to be listed on page 2. And then we have any type of adjustments that the seller has already paid in advance on behalf of the buyer or for the property, such as the HOA dues. Typically those are due in January or December, so if you're closing after those months, it is highly likely that the seller's already paid that portion of their HOA dues for the whole year. So the buyer then reimburses the seller here in this section for the time that they're going to own the property from the day of closing through the end of the year. Same thing for taxes. If you're closing in December or late November, if the seller's already paid the taxes, the buyer is probably going to reimburse the seller at that time, and that will be the section where you'll see that charge. You're going to see a total amount due from the buyer in usually section J, but it's the last line of that section. That's the total amount due from the buyer. But wait, there's more, because the next section is where we start applying credits to the buyer, either from the seller, the agents, or just their deposits already on hand. So you're going to have the earnest money is going to be there. If there was earnest money deposited with the title company, you're going to see that as a credit. If the buyer paid the seller an option fee in the beginning of the transaction, then if it's refundable at closing, that's going to be listed there. And the opposite is true if the taxes have not been paid for the year. This is where the seller is going to be giving the buyer a credit. So at the end of the year, the buyer's fully responsible for all of the taxes, and they've been given a credit on the settlement statement at the day of closing. Then the bottom is basically the difference between the debits and the credits. What is actually due from the buyer, how much cash has to be brought to closing. On the right-hand side for the seller, it's a little bit reverse. So you've got everything that's due to the seller at the top of the right-hand column. Then you get down to the next section, everything that is due from the seller, such as the total closing cost, any type of payoffs. If they have a current mortgage or any other debts and liens, they may be there. They may be listed there as the payoffs. So then at the bottom line is the amount that the title company is going to send the seller after the transaction has closed. That's the first page. The first page is pretty easy. The next page is going to outline all of the fees for both sides. Again, it's broken down into two columns towards the right-hand side of the page. The left hand is the buyer and the right hand is the seller. In the very top of the document, you're going to see there the list for commissions. That is where the real estate agents are paid from the seller. They're listed at the very top. If you keep going down, there's a section called title charges. Typically in a cash transaction, this is the next section that has anything in it. This is going to include any type of settlement fee that's charged, any document prep that's charged, document preparation to the attorneys, the fees for the title premiums. So that's usually in the seller's column, sometimes in the buyer's column. Any fees charged by the state, whether it be the $2 policy fee that we pay, any fees for recording, they're all going to be listed as you keep going down the HUD. So when you get down to section 1200, that is where the recording fees are. So the documents being recorded in a cash transaction are typically the warranty deed and any other type of notice the seller is required to provide to the buyer, such as if the property is in a municipal utility district. The next section is the 1300 section. This is a miscellaneous section. It's called additional settlement charges. I just consider it miscellaneous. This is where HOA fees, such as transfer fees or capitalization fees, foundation fees, they're all going to be there. If there was a survey that was ordered new for the closing, it's going to be there. Any outstanding taxes that need to be paid at closing will be there as well. The home warranty, if the seller has agreed to purchase a home warranty for the buyer, that fee will be there as well. And anything that may have been paid by the seller to a third party for repairs, a lot of times that's included. But again, you get the idea. It's any miscellaneous fees are going to be included in that section. Both the buyer and the seller typically see their charges. Sometimes it just depends on the closer where the charges may be if it's a payoff. That's why I was saying on the front page, if there's something else that needs to be paid off, maybe there was an HOA lien or an abstract of judgment that the seller had to take care of. Sometimes that's on the front page, sometimes it's on the second page. So just know to look for those there. And that's it. That's a HUD in a nutshell. The third page is for the signature line for both parties to sign. And that's how easy a HUD is. Anything else is covered in our closing disclosure, the ones that I go over in our closing disclosures. But if you have a cash transaction, that is how easy it is to understand your HUD. If you have any questions at all, don't feel free. Don't worry about contacting us. Feel free to contact us at 832-404-2795. Thanks so much.